Bonjour, buenos dias, good morning, ni hao, sin chao, what's up? It's me, Mr. Jordan. Today we're going to be looking at chapter 19 of The Handmaid's Tale. We'll start with a brief recap and summary, then we'll get into some line-by-line reading, close reading, and analysis. Finish off, as usual, with vocabulary and some definitions and context to those words. Let's get right into the brief recap and summary for chapter 20. In this chapter, Offred is at Offwarren, aka Janine's labor, so they're at the actual birth, a huge event in Gilead. Offred has a series of flashbacks when she's at the actual birth, so she's mentally leaving the physical and the matter that's happening in the room and slipping into these digressions about her own mother's experience during the second wave feminist movement in the United States, and then also about Aunt Lydia in the Red Center giving this harsh and fundamentally radical critique of old films and pornography and things that are licentious. Now for some analysis and a close reading line by line of the chapter. There's this really clear parallel here drawn by Margaret Atwood between the physical pain and labor and endurance of Janine giving birth and what's happened in Gilead, where science and medicine and the advances of the Baconian method have been denied. We're told the doctors are sitting outside in some sort of truck where they're locked away, smoking cigarettes and playing cards. The doctors are marginalized and no longer relevant or useless to this process. Janine is experiencing intense pain and sweats, and there's this idea of the smell of matrix and blood and bodily odor in the room, and this idea that cesarean sections and epidurals and anesthetics and any sort of scientific pain relief has been denied these women. There's this comparison to the violent pain of a pornography film that Aunt Lydia is critiquing and sort of monologuing or ranting about in the Red Center. So these two forms of pain being inflicted on women, one in the sort of decadent old culture of free sex in America, and the new one in Gilead where science has been banned, they coalesce, right? They become the same thing. Two totally different ideologies, right, left, free, controlled, individual, collectivism. But regardless, the women are getting the short end of the stick. They're being forced to subject their bodies to pain and anguish based on these ideological systems. In one, it's for violent sexual practices. In the other, it's for painful birthing practices. But ultimately, the individual experience of Janine is very similar to this individual experience of pain that we're told about in the old film. Atwood is showing us how women's bodies are subjected to pain and put through a type of bondage or slavery, even though now it's in the name of God or nature. So there's literal descriptions of bodies hanging from trees and dog collars and this violent imagery in the pornography film that's often associated with chattel slavery in the United States. So again, this idea that women's bodies are being enslaved now in Gilead based on the words of the Bible. In contrast to this is the social rights movement and the second wave feminism that her mother was participating in, where they quote, "We're fighting for the freedom to choose, for women to recapture our bodies." So her mother's efforts and political gains are now lost or erased, right? They're rewritten over in the palimpsest of history. Any advancement has been regressed and wasted with the regain of scriptural state. This church and state separation is over. I think Atwood here as an author or narrator is also warning us against the regression of politics. She's showing us how easily the gains can be lost. Clearly here there's an example of how communist or Marxist ideologies were abused under Stalinism in Russia, or how socialist ideas were taken and co-opted by Nazis to turn into totalitarian violence and nationalistic propaganda. There's a depth here too to the analysis that Atwood's giving through Offred. Offred tells us she admired her mother in some ways, even if she didn't want to be the, quote, incarnation of her ideas. Notice the diction here. So the incarnate, the flesh, is again recalled. She supported the ideals even if she doesn't physically want to go or protest or be a part of her mother's movement and epoch. But it wasn't enough to be idle, I think. There's some suggestion that because Offred didn't stand up or support her mother's ideals, they now no longer exist. So this idea that generationally things have to be seen through. We get another hint of it at the end of the chapter when Offred tells us, quote, "I want her back. I want everything back, the way it was." So we really feel this yearning, this nostalgia. So she's dreaming for this era that's rewritten, that's been erased and stomped upon by the revival of totalitarian politics and extreme chauvinism and nationalism under Gilead. Quick vocabulary here. An oversight, the unintentional failure to notice or to do something. So it's something you look over or look beyond. Abstract means something that has no concrete or physical present. So it exists only in ideas. It's only out there in this ether or in the words themselves and the line-by-line inferences. To entitle means to give someone a title, right? To call them a handmaid, to call them a commander. It also means a legal right to receive or to claim something. So it's something you believe is yours, that you believe you're justly due. Incarnate means to represent in human form or human body. It can also be of a spirit or an angel or a god showing up incarnate in the flesh, right? God being in the flesh of a human on earth, a miracle. It can also be the living embodiment or the ideal of something. If you're the thing incarnate, you're kind of the epitome or the pinnacle of the thing, the epitome of it. Thanks so much for watching. That was chapter 20. Hope you liked it. Leave a comment below if you have any questions about the analysis. Hopefully we'll see you back soon for chapter 21.